All right, guys, so this course is broken into two parts. The first is full of learning modules to learn the fundamentals and the syntax in PHP. And this includes data types, functions, loops, superglobals, working with a database and PDO, and so on. So each lesson in the learning modules will have its own independent code. And I have all of the code for you in something called a sandbox. This is so you can have the code for reference later on. Now, the second part of the course will be us building a job listings project where we'll set up a vanilla PHP website from scratch with sort of a custom framework with a custom router, namespaces, all that good stuff. So if you're already comfortable with PHP, then you may want to skip around the first part, or the first, I think it's 8 sections up until the project, or you might want to just go right for the project. Now, as far as the sandbox goes, you'll have 2 zip files to download in this lesson. And one is going to be called PHP Sandbox Starter. This is where you'll have all of the start code for each lesson. And the other is called PHP Sandbox Finished, which obviously is the finished or final code. Now, many of the lessons will have some starter code, whether that's just HTML or HTML with some PHP. You can either copy the starter code for each project and paste it in your work file, or you can just rename PHP Sandbox Starter to PHP Sandbox and use that as your work folder. Put that in your document root. And what I'm going to do is just copy any starter code for that lesson into my current file and just go from there. So it's up to you on how you want to do it. So what I'm going to do is go to my work folder, and remember, if you're using something like Laragon, it's going to be in your C drive, Laragon/www. That's your server root. If you're using XAMPP, then it's going to be in your C drive, htdocs. And just make sure that whatever suite you're using, you know where to put your files for your server. So what I did is installed PHP with Homebrew, so I'm using the built-in PHP server, which means I can use any folder I want for my work folder. So I created this projects folder in my home directory. And I just have the test project here, which I'm actually going to delete. And then I'm just going to create a new file called php-sandbox, and that's where I'm going to work for the next 7 or 8 sections. And I'm not going to bring, all this stuff into there because I don't want to have to type out 01 variables, data types, / PHP tags, printing comments. I just want to be able to use this a single file. So any starter code, which a lot of these have, I'm just going to copy from that particular file. So from this index.php or whatever section or lesson we're working on. All right, so I'm going to open PHP Sandbox within VS Code, and I'm going to create an index.php. And from here, I'm just going to put in hello. And then I want to run my server, so I'm going to open up the terminal here. And remember, I'm using the built-in server, so I'll say php-s localhost, and I'm going to say run that on port 8000. So now I have that running. If I go to localhost 8000, I should see hello. So I'm going to make that smaller. We'll make this smaller. And we'll close up the sidebar here, and we should be ready to go. So in the next section, we're going to start to learn PHP.